YouTube. I know I've been gone for a minute, but I'm back. And today we are going to be reacting to Patrick CC, an artist who destroys their careers in seconds. So we're about to react to this right now. If you're new, go ahead and leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And let's go ahead and watch.
These artists' careers were never the same after one incident, whether it was from their own terrible decisions or a minor misstep that got blown out of proportion. Today we are going to discuss them all, starting with Macklemore, who leaked a text message that made everyone question what they thought they knew about him. In 2012 and 2013, you could not go anywhere without hearing the song Thrift Shop. Far from your typical rap song, Macklemore flexed $20 and had suburban moms dancing to his funky saxophone. This song spent 6 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Mac had one-hit wonder written all over him. He carried the most stereotypical white rapper image that is perceived as corny by hip-hop culture, but he proved everyone wrong with his second hit, Can't Hold Us, which spent 5 weeks at the #1 spot. This track was definitely more of a standard pop track, but 2 Billboard #1s in his first year as a mainstream artist stamped that he was a force to be reckoned with. However, it was all about to come crashing down, as Macklemore would suffer from success. At the 2014 annual Grammy Awards, Macklemore was nominated in 7 categories, the biggest and most prestigious being Best Rap Album and Best Rap Song. After winning Best Rap Performance and Best New Artist, people were happy to see him win 2 Grammys. Nominated for Best Rap Song up against Drake, Kanye West, Jay-Z, it seemed unlikely Macklemore would win, but Thrift Shop was in fact the winner of Best Rap Song of 2014, securing him his 3rd Grammy of the night. But what would come next would shock the world. Up against Drake's Nothing Was the Same, Jay-Z's Magna Carta, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid Mad City, and Kanye West's Yeezus, Macklemore had absolutely no chance of winning. Everyone was betting on Kendrick since he without a doubt had the best album of the bunch, but wouldn't be entirely surprised if it went to the other nominees. The hip-hop community was floored when Macklemore and Ryan Lewis's The Heist won Best Rap Album of the Year. The Heist could
So, he won out of Drake, Kendrick, who else did you say? And J. Cole? Is that what he said?
Yeezus. Macklemore had absolute Kendrick Lamar's up against Drake's Nothing Was the Same, Jay-Z's Magna Carta, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid Mad City, and Kanye West's Yeezus.
Yeah, Kanye West. So he won. Out of all of them people, he won. That's crazy.
Name for this absolute robbery. Macklemore was being cooked by the hip-hop community online, reminding him in every comment section that he didn't deserve to win. He felt so much pressure that he decided to text Kendrick Lamar and apologize. "You got robbed. I wanted you to win. You should have. It's weird and sucks that I robbed you. I was gonna say that during the speech, then the music started playing during my speech and I froze."
Why do you say it like that? You could have said it another way. But I get that he wasn't trying to be mean. But the way he just worded it is wrong.
Anyway, you know what it is. Congrats on this year and your music. Appreciate you as an artist and as a friend. Much love. We wouldn't have ever seen this text if Macklemore didn't post it to social media, which made it even worse and looked like he was just trying to get in the good graces with the public.
Did you ever feel any way about him posting the text message or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it was uncalled for, to be 100 with you. When he sent it to me, I was like, okay, you know, I could see him feeling that type of way because he a good dude. But I think for confirmation from the world, you know, he probably felt like he had to put it out there, which he didn't need to do. He didn't need to do, but I don't take nothing away from him anyway because I know where his heart is at, he cool.
Despite Kendrick being cordial and saying that Macklemore meant well, hip-hop fans could never truly accept Macklemore as a part of the culture. They thought he was disingenuous, and they didn't really like his music in the first place, so this was an easy excuse to forget about him. He stepped out of the line.
If Eminem would have won against Jay-Z, Kendrick, and Kanye, there wouldn't be no problem about it. But since it's Macklemore, it's a problem.
limelight, and many people suggest his music was never as ambitious ever again. He felt guilt, and that guilt ate him alive. His 2016 album, This Unruly Mess I Made, sold just 61,000 copies in the first week. Him and Ryan Lewis split up shortly after, and Mac released another solo album, Gemini, that did decent amongst his fan base, but ultimately, he hasn't had any major mainstream success in almost a decade. But unlike Macklemore, DaBaby refused to apologize to anyone.
Not this, bro. Alright.
Which is leading to one of
Here we
the
go.
dumbest downfalls of all time. Baby exploded onto the mainstream rap scene in 2019 with his hit song Suge, which peaked at number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. In a world of repetitive melodic trap, DaBaby felt fresh and exciting, providing us with bouncy and fun bangers. He dominated for the next 2 years, constantly having multiple singles on the Billboard Hot 100, and he was in regular rotation.
Bro, I think people was like already getting tired of his music because it sounded the same on every single song. He had the same flow on every single song and didn't switch it up. That's why I think people was already getting tired of his music. And then what he said at what was it, Rolling Loud? What he said at Rolling Loud made it even worse for himself, bro.
On the radio. His track Rockstar with Roddy Ricch was the #1 song for 7 weeks straight, a very tough thing to do as a hip-hop artist. But DaBaby was always known for having a bold personality. He was the type to say whatever he wanted, and if you had a problem, he was more than willing to handle it. He even killed a guy in Walmart. Don't worry, it was self-defense. Well, in July of 2021, on the stage at Rolling Loud, his loose lips got him in major trouble. Maybe some that he can't recover from.
You didn't show up today with HIV, AIDS, any of them deadly sexually transmitted diseases that'll make you die in 2-3 weeks. Put a cell phone like that up.
What made you want to go on stage and say that, bro? What was the point? I didn't get it. What was the point?
Lady, if your pussy smell like water, put a cell phone like that up. Fellas,
Lights up.
fellas, if you ain't sucking nigga in the parking lot, put your cell phone like that.
Now that part is what got him. That part right there. You know how it is now. If you say something like that today, you gonna get canceled. This nigga got canceled, bro. And I think he's still canceled. I don't know. And then, to make it even worse, he do the whole drama thing with his baby mama online, bro. But you could have just handled it offline. No, he wanted to go online and show the bad side of the relationship.
Completely unprovoked and for no reason at all, DaBaby was thinking about gay men and what they do in their free time while he was on stage performing. He referred to people with AIDS as dirty and will likely die soon from the illness. Both statements are categorically and factually untrue. The clip was shared onto the internet and sent millions of people into an uproar. DaBaby addressed this on his Instagram and clarified his message.
I wasn't going on no rant. That's called a call to action. That's what that's called, because I'm a live performer. I'm the best live performer. I'm the live show killer. You interact with your fans.
But what does a man relationship has to do with you and your performance? I still don't get it.
You get what I'm saying?
No.
Look, all the lights went up gay straight. You want to know why? Because even my gay fans don't got fucking AIDS, stupid ass niggas.
But still, what does that have to do with you? Explain. Somebody in the comments, explain, because I don't get it.
Him doubling down on his comments made everything way worse, as he clearly was very uneducated on the AIDS disease and the unfair stigmas that come with it. And although he eventually issued an apology addressing the LGBTQ community, he had made countless contradictory statements after. He tried to profit off the controversy in music videos and even kind of redacted his own apology.
If I say what I say to get people to raise their cell phones and it's misinterpreted by people who watch a 5-second clip at home, you're not supposed to understand what's going on. You couldn't raise your cell phone if you wanted to, so you ain't supposed to be able to digest a clip, you know what I'm saying? A clip that has been altered and shortened with a narrative to go along with it, with enough people driving it, it's gonna do what it do.
From here, he got kicked off every major festival in 2021 that he was supposed to perform at. And even when he did perform, he was booed and had garbage thrown at him. A-list celebrities and fellow collaborators condemned him. But the controversy continued. He got into fights, tormented and broke down the mother of his child on
This is what I was talking
Instagram,
about.
tried to kiss one of his fans without consent.
Oh no, bro. That was awkward, bro. When he tried to kiss her the first time, the girl backed away, and then he tried to go in for another kiss. Like, and I think it was like COVID season at that time too.
DaBaby was not trying to save face. He just kept saying, "I'm sorry for being me." His ticket sales plummeted, which resorted to him offering buy one get one free deals to fill out the venues. One report alleged that he only sold 500 tickets to a venue that holds 14,000 people, and he claims to have lost $30 million because of the controversy.
Like, what were the
$30
L's?
million.
Week or two after, $30 million, $30 million that I would have had before the ball dropped 2021. So this happened rolling out with what, July? I had $30 million worth of shows on the schedule before December 31st.
All he had to say was, "Put your hands in the air if you just don't care," and all of this could have been avoided. But if you think what DaBaby said was bad, you'll be horrified by what CeeLo Green
CeeLo
said in a
Green?
series of
Wait, why is Janet Jackson on here? What did she do? And why is CeeLo Green on here?
questionable tweets. If you don't remember the name CeeLo Green or his previous duo Gnarls Barkley, you definitely remember his two most iconic songs, Crazy and Forget You. Crazy peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and spent 29 weeks on the chart. Forget You, which he released solo 4 years later, also went number 2 on the Hot 100 after spending almost a full year on the charts. CeeLo had a very unique voice and was undeniably talented. He pretty much only gave us 2 hits, but was an ever-present pop culture figure throughout the early 2010s. Whether he was hosting an award show, his own reality show, voice acting, or being a judge on The Voice, CeeLo was loved and appreciated, until some shocking allegations arose. CeeLo was accused by a 33-year-old woman he dined with at a downtown Los Angeles sushi restaurant of placing ecstasy, also known as MDMA or Molly, in her drink. The woman later told Los Angeles police detectives she woke up naked in bed in her hotel room with Green. CeeLo allegedly admitted to law enforcement that he took ecstasy, but denied drugging the woman's drink or committing sexual assault. CeeLo's sexual assault charges were dropped after prosecutors concluded there wasn't enough evidence to take that accusation to court, but he was found guilty on drug charges, which landed him 3 years probation. But it wasn't the nature of the charges that ruined his career, it's what he said on Twitter after the case. After being criticized by people in public tweets, he decided to respond. "Women who have really been R-worded, remember, but point taken."
Bro, if the case was dropped, and you go on Twitter saying something about it, why not just leave it alone? If the case was dropped, then you shouldn't have nothing to say about it.
So if I tried but did not succeed, but the person said I did, then what really happened? When someone breaks in a home, there is broken glass. Where is your plausible proof anyone was R-worded? If
Bro, the case was...
someone passed out, they're not even with you consciously, so with implies consent. It's hard to see what point he was trying to make here, but the blogs were not holding back. CeeLo, it's not rape if you forget. CeeLo Green, it isn't rape if the victim is unconscious. After these tweets, his reputation was destroyed. He lost all of his live performance bookings, he quit The Voice to avoid being fired, his TV show was canceled, and he basically disappeared from the pop culture zeitgeist, pretty much surviving off royalties and small film roles here and there. But I guess him and I are friends now?
Yo, Pat, what's up, man? I'm assuming that your friends call you Pat,
My friends do call me Pat, so
and I consider myself to be one of your friends.
The next person on our list lost her career from something that was totally out of her control. In fact, it may have even been a setup. Janet Jackson is a woman who needs no introduction. She is the youngest of the 9 iconic Jackson family siblings. Although she was not a part of the original Jackson 5, she would go on to have a massive solo music career. Jackson signed the first of 2 record-breaking multi-million-dollar contracts with Virgin Records, establishing her as one of the highest-paid artists in the industry. She was named by Billboard magazine in the 90s as the second most successful recording artist of the decade in the United States after Mariah Carey. Over 100 million records sold, 10 Billboard #1 songs, 27 top 10 hits. She is easily the most successful artist on this list, which is why her downfall is even more tragic. The Super Bowl in America is always the most watched televised program every year, with an average of around 100 million people watching the game. The halftime show has historically been a major milestone in an artist's career, as it is the biggest stage they will likely ever be on. In 2004, Janet Jackson was asked to do the show, but not by herself, which was surprising since she easily had enough hits to do a full set. Instead, she only got to perform 2 of her songs. The other time was filled out by Justin Timberlake, Diddy, Nelly, Kid Rock, and Jessica Simpson. The very last song of the performance was Justin's hit song, Rock Your Body, in which Janet assisted him. The two met at the center of the stage to pose for the grand finale. Justin reaches across Janet's body and pulls off the chest piece of her costume.
Don't tell me her nipples showed, bro. But why is she getting bashed for it if Justin was the one who accidentally took it off?
Exposing her breast to 90 million people. The wardrobe malfunction is considered the biggest controversy in televised history. This incident was actually the inspiration for YouTube because of the difficulty finding footage to rewatch online. Now, to some degree, this was planned. Justin's intention was to pull the leather piece off her chest and expose the red underneath, but he ripped too much. In the split second the camera was on Janet, you can see her look down in shock. She tried to cover herself while Timberlake stood holding the ripped pieces of her costume and bra. The
See, he didn't really do that. He could have just wrapped his arms around her so she won't be like seen, but he just stood there. And she got all the blame for it. Like,
FCC received more than 500,000 complaints after the performance. CBS was fined $550,000, and the halftime sponsor AOL demanded a return of the $10 million advertising cost they paid to the NFL. Justin apologized, MTV apologized, Janet apologized, even though she later regretted it because it was an accident. The media went into an all-out frenzy. The FCC investigated the halftime show to see if this was a planned media stunt meant to shock the world, citing that because she was wearing a nipple covering, that was evidence this was all set up. Class action lawsuits were filed against Janet by random citizens, claiming that her sexually explicit performance deserved maximum punitive damages. Every talk show host in the nation dragged her. Viacom had to pay out $3.5 million to settle various indecency complaints, so they went and banned all radio and TV stations that they owned from playing any of Janet Jackson's music. Janet was blackballed from the music industry over an accident, and Justin was not punished at all, even though it was definitely his fault. There is no doubt her punishment.
that's sad, bro. I ain't gonna say it was the whole racial thing, but she got bashed, and he didn't get nothing wrong with that. He didn't like get bashed. He didn't get his money taken away. He didn't, get canceled. But she got bashed because he ripped it off.
Was unfair and likely due to her gender and race. Her career
I wasn't gonna put the race thing, but he said it. He just said it.
There's no doubt her punishment was unfair and likely due to her gender and race. Her career after that wasn't totally dismantled. She did have a #1 album, a Grammy nomination, some light Billboard presence, but this incident lingered like a dark cloud over her head for many years, and slowly she faded out of the mainstream.
I am one of those women who have been gagged, both literally and emotionally, women who have been abused, women who have been intimidated, women who have lived in fear. I stand with you. You are my sisters.
However, today, most people can all agree that this was just an overreaction, and she is still highly regarded as one of the most iconic pop stars of all time. Overreacting to small mistakes seemed to be common in the early 2000s, because this next artist's career was destroyed by something so small, it's almost unbelievable. Ashley Simpson was the younger sister of the already famous pop star Jessica Simpson.
Wait, why is the intro on here? And who's Ashley Simpson?
Who was a multi-platinum Billboard charting recording artist. She also had her own MTV show. Newlyweds, Nick and Jessica was one of the most popular programs on the network. MTV wanted to capitalize on the Simpson sisters' newfound fame and gave Ashley her own series called The Ashley Simpson Show. The series ran for 2 seasons and aired every week on MTV directly after Jessica's show. Viewers who were invested in Jess were introduced to Ashley immediately after. Ashley was desperate to not live in the shadows of her sister. She dyed her naturally blonde hair brown and built a pop-punk image to complement her pop-rock music. Her album's lead single, Pieces of Me, became an instant hit in the United States. The song peaked at number 5 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and sold over 500,000 copies nationwide. Ashley's debut album was released soon after, with an estimated 398,000 copies sold in its first week. Worldwide, the album sold more than 5 million copies. She had a bigger debut than her sister, but her career ended just before it took off. Saturday Night Live, 2004. Ashley Simpson was set to perform her single Pieces of Me when this happened.
On a Monday, I am waiting. Tuesday, I am fading.
You might be kind of confused as to what happened. Basically, the backing vocals started playing before Ashley expected them, as it was her intention to lip sync her performance, but instead of trying to catch up to the song, she stood there in a panic, then hit this extremely awkward jig dance twice, before ultimately exiting the stage without saying anything. The show cut to commercial, and when it came back, she blamed her band.
Ladies and gentlemen, what can I say? Live TV.
Exactly. I feel so bad. My band started playing the wrong song, and I didn't know what to do, so I thought I'd do a hoedown. I'm sorry.
If she just told the truth right away, she may have been able to avoid the backlash, but instead, Ashley became a laughingstock.
On a Monday, you saw me. On Tuesday, you called me. On Wednesday.
They made a whole cartoon about this, bro. What is this, Family Guy? That's what it look like. Family Guy always got something to say about something.
Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something.
Even news anchors poked fun at her.
Sister's performance on Saturday Night Live was...
I was about to say, wait. But I get it now.
Even news anchors poked fun at her.
Sister's performance on Saturday Night Live was, well, out of sync, you could say.
All right, sorry, we had to do that. It was just our own little lip-syncing adventure.
We were mocking her.
At just 19, she was publicly ridiculed by the world. And this is all especially ridiculous considering today's standards are much lower. It almost feels like lip syncing isn't even a real thing anymore. Half of my favorite artists at their live shows just let the song play, jump around, and yell random ad-libs. Even though Ashley was a decent performer, and she did have an opportunity to redeem herself on various late-night shows, nobody cared. Nobody wanted to give her a second chance. It was too much fun to make jokes and boo her off stage. She did have a moderate comeback with her single Boyfriend in 2005, and her second album eventually selling 3 million copies worldwide, but she had already seen the peak of her music career, and as it slowly dwindled away, she maintained her relevance in the 2010s through relationships, various television projects, and her own social media. But the last person on our list has the most unexpected, shocking, and horrifying incidents that landed them in prison. In 2015, the world was dancing to Silent-O's hit song, Watch Me. The song paired with the massive viral dance, the whip and the nay-nay. All of social media...
What was that?
The song paired with the massive viral dance...
Never, ever do that a day in your life. Never dance again.
The whip and the nay-nay. All of social media was flooded with videos of people doing the dance. With Vine and Instagram peaking in popularity, Silent Hill laid the foundation for what would become extremely normal on TikTok many years later. He performed at award shows, on Nickelodeon, every talk show in America. The virality got the single to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, as well as 1.8 billion views on YouTube. Today, the record is 6 times platinum. Unfortunately, hip-hop dance tracks have a history of being impossible to outdo, because for every one that becomes culturally iconic, there are hundreds of cheesy failed attempts to recreate the moment. Silent Hill waited 3 years to drop his album fresh out of high school, which failed to generate any buzz, and his second album went almost totally unnoticed. But before you could fully count him out, he made a decision that officially ended his career. On January 21st, 2021, the 23-year-old rapper was arrested for the murder of his cousin, 34-year-old Frederick Rooks, after a shooting in DeKalb County, Georgia. Police said officers found Rooks suffering from multiple gunshot wounds at a home off of Deep Shoals Circle. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators did not have a suspect at the time. Responding officers were able to obtain video from the security cameras of multiple residents and later identified Hawk, or Silento, as the gunman. Silento was arrested February 1st, 2021, and then later indicted by a Georgia grand jury on 4 felonies: 1 count of malice murder, 1 count of felony murder, aggravated assault, and gun possession during the commission of a felony. As of now, the court has deemed Silento unfit for the safety of the public and will remain incarcerated until further trial. Since the trial has not started yet, we don't know how he did it, we don't know why he did it, and we don't know how long he might be in jail, but we do know is that his career is officially over.
That's crazy. But I do want to see this though. Why didn't Chris Brown's career end? Let's watch it.
When discussing Chris Brown, it's impossible to forget the 2009 incident where he physically assaulted his girlfriend Rihanna, who, as we know, was and still is one of the most popular stars of the past decade. Some of you from that moment on were never a fan of Chris Brown again, and while it did leave a stain on his reputation,
Bro, if somebody did something like in the music industry, bro, and you have no connections or no, like, and you don't even know the person, why would you stop listening to their music just because he did something that has no, like, connections to you? You think just because you stop listening to his music is going to affect him? Bro.
being forever associated with this disgraceful incident basically didn't hurt his career at all. Today, Chris Brown has over 50 million monthly listeners, has more gold records than Elvis, and is still selling out stadiums all over the world. Just last week, he posted on Instagram about how people still hate him for a mistake he made at 17. But Chris Brown has made a mistake almost every year for the past decade. He seemingly isn't a changed man. So why didn't his career end? Today, you will find out exactly why. Stay hydrated. By early 2009, Chris and Rihanna were considered a music industry hitmaker power couple. Rihanna had 2 #1 hits, SOS and Umbrella, along with a number of hits such as Pon de Replay, Unfaithful, Don't Stop the Music, Shut Up and Drive, Disturbia, which was actually written by Chris Brown, Take a Bow, and many others. Chris also had 2 #1 songs, his debut Run It and Kiss Kiss, along with other hits like Say Goodbye, Gimme That, Yo, Take You Down, With You, and Forever. Heading into the 51st Annual Grammy Awards, they were both scheduled to perform separately, as well as receiving multiple nominations for various categories. However, these plans ended abruptly when media outlets reported that the couple would not be attending the red carpet, and their performances were canceled shortly afterward. Early that morning, Chris had been arrested following a domestic altercation in a rented Lamborghini that left Rihanna's face bloodied, bruised, and swollen. But to fully understand what occurred that night, we must backtrack when the couple initially began dating. Chris and Rihanna were not your typical teenage romance. They couldn't dine at restaurants or book hotel rooms without paparazzi flooding the parking lot. With so much power, influence, and a lack of privacy at such a young age, things were bound to get ugly. Chris told Rihanna that he wanted to marry her. Before he proposed, he wanted to come clean and admit that he had slept with one of his female assistants. Rihanna was floored. She could no longer trust Chris for hiding this from her for so long, especially since Rihanna asked Chris years ago if he ever slept with this woman.
My trust totally was lost with her. You know what I'm saying? She hated me. After that, I tried everything. Like, we would fight each other, she would hit me, I would hit her. But it never was okay.
There were actually 2 previous domestic abuse-related incidents before the Grammys. The first offense cited occurred in Europe about 3 months before his arrest. Chris and
But the thing is, my whole point on this cheating thing is like, if you wanted to do the whole, sleep with somebody and then get into a relationship, why not get into a relationship and then you go around and sleep with whoever you want to because you're not in a relationship? But if you're in a relationship and you go do this with somebody else, that means, I don't know, you truly didn't love the person who you with. But me personally, bro, I don't cheat because I don't it's just not me. I don't do that.
Rihanna were engaged in a verbal dispute when she slapped him and he responded by shoving her into a wall. The report also states that in January,
I also wouldn't put my hands on any female, bro. It's just not how my mom raised me to put my hands on a female.
Brown and Rihanna were vacationing in Barbados and got into an argument while they were riding around in a borrowed Range Rover. No injuries were reported, but Brown got out of the vehicle and smashed the driver and front passenger side windows. But on February 8th, it all reached a tipping point, and it was about to get bad. Chris, who was 18 at the time, and Rihanna, who was 19, arrived at the executive Clive Davis's legendary pre-Grammy bash. The couple were approached by the woman Chris had slept with before his relationship with Rihanna, the woman who sparked trust issues between the two. Chris claimed he didn't know she would be there, but Rihanna was upset nonetheless. She began crying before the ceremony started. However, as the night continued, she gradually got over it. They drank, laughed, and enjoyed their night before leaving the venue. Up until that point, everything was fine, as Rihanna explained. The couple had a blast that night. On the drive home, Rihanna discovered a lengthy text message on Chris's phone from the woman they had encountered earlier that night. Chris claimed he never saw the message, but Rihanna felt like she caught him in a lie and he wouldn't tell the truth. She wouldn't drop the issue and couldn't accept that he could be lying to her. Rihanna felt like Chris's back was against the wall and it caused him to get enraged and become violent. Chris, on the other hand, offered a different story. Off top, she thought I was lying. She starts going off, she throws the phone, I hate you, whatever. She starts hitting me, we're in a new Lamborghini. She's fighting me and I'm like, look, I'm telling you the truth, I swear to God. I'm telling you the truth, stop it. So then she hits me a couple more times and I just
It doesn't go from translation to, let's sit down, I'm telling you the truth. It goes to, now I'm finna be mean and be evil.
So then I remember she tried to kick me. It's like her just being upset.
But then I really hit her. I with a closed fist, I punched her. And it busted her lip.
And when I saw it, I was in shock, fuck, why did I hit her like that?
So from there, she just spit in my face, spit the blood in my face, and I'm like.
And it enraged me even more, like it's a real-on fight in a car. We driving in the street. So then I'm like, yo.
Hey, we tripping. What the f***? What are we doing?
Chris says that he didn't start the verbal or physical fight, but he does admit that he retaliated violently, and that was wrong. According to the detective's statement, Rihanna made frantic calls and texts to her staff after Chris allegedly threatened to assault her when they arrived home. The outrage only angered Brown more, and he continued his barrage of punches as the vehicle swerved. All Rihanna could think to herself was, when is it going to stop? Eventually, Chris pulled over. Rihanna ripped the keys out of the ignition and pretended to throw them out the window, forcing Chris to exit the vehicle. While searching for the keys, Rihanna yelled, "Help, he's trying to kill me." A neighbor heard Rihanna's screams and immediately dialed 911. Frustrated, Chris walked home while Rihanna remained there until authorities arrived. After their Grammys appearance was canceled, the public soon learned about the truth regarding what occurred earlier that day. Following the news leaking to the media publications, TMZ released a photo of Rihanna where she sustained visible injuries. Someone in the police department leaked the photo. Rihanna described this person as a very nasty woman who thought a check was more important than morals. If Chris's situation wasn't bad before, the visual representation of his actions made it significantly worse. He eventually turned himself into the authorities and was booked under suspicion of making criminal threats. It's important to keep in mind that we didn't truly hear Chris's side of the story until 2017, nearly 10 years later, because he chose to publicly admit his wrongdoings with this apology he uploaded to the internet.
Hi, I'm Chris Brown. Since February, my attorney has advised me not to speak out, even though ever since the incident I wanted to publicly express my deepest regret and accept full responsibility. Although I would do some interviews and answer some questions in the future, I felt it was time that you heard directly from me that I am sorry.
He carried that same sentiment to court as he pleaded guilty to felony assault. In August of 2009, Chris received 5 years of probation. He was ordered to attend 1 year of domestic violence counseling and undergo 6 months of community service. After the trial, Rihanna broke her silence.
I fell in love with that person. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that that's the type of person that I fell in love with. So far in love. So unconditional that I went back.
On average, I think it takes a woman 7 times before she leaves.
8 or 9, actually. And I don't want that to happen.
Then Chris publicly responded.
Is it difficult for you to hear Rihanna say those things?
It is. It's real difficult. It hurts, but it's just something that I have to be responsible for because I'm responsible for my actions.
He did the right thing by admitting his wrongdoings, but he still lost sponsorships, bookings, and radio play. Despite the backlash, he decided to release an album in 2009, Graffiti, which debuted at number 7 on the Billboard Hot 200 and sold 102,000 copies in the first week. This is still his worst performing album, but it's also easily his worst sounding album. At the time, people thought his career was ruined, but actually, this was only a minor setback. Chris was about to dominate for the next decade, and although he claimed he was going to change his actions, that couldn't be further from the truth.
I have sought and I'm continuing to seek help to ensure that what occurred in February can never happen again. And as I sit here today, I can tell you that I will do everything in my power to make sure that it never happens again. And I promise that.
It happened again, bro? No.
Chris was never blackballed from the music industry. Just 1 year after pleading guilty, he was booked to perform a Michael Jackson tribute at the 2010 BET Awards. During the performance, he famously began crying and fell to his knees while singing Jackson's Man in the Mirror. His breakdown sparked a positive reaction as viewers and celebrities alike praised his ability to be vulnerable while honoring his idol. This performance completely changed the public perception of him. Those tears won over the hearts of his fans and haters. They thought everyone deserves a second chance, especially someone as talented as Chris Brown. Coming off the positive press, Chris released another hit called Deuces. The 3 times platinum single was remixed by some of the biggest names in hip-hop, including Drake, Kanye West, Andre 3000, and
So he remixed this song 5 times. That's like Lil Nas X and Old Town Road, bro. Y'all remember how that song kept getting remixes after remixes after, like, every single month he'll drop a remix. That was crazy.
and Rick Ross. Chris thought the world forgave him, and in February 2011, Rihanna's restraining order against Chris was eased as a judge allowed the two to have contact with each other. But the world didn't forget, which made him very angry.
Have you been able to? How have you been able to?
I've been focusing on his album, you know. I think this album is what, you know, I want people to hear and want people to really get into. So definitely this album is what I want them to talk about and not the stuff that happened 2 years ago.
After this agitated interview, Chris stormed off the Good Morning America set, screaming down the hallway. He allegedly threw a chair at his dressing room window, which caused the glass to shatter on the street below, ripped his shirt off, and taunted one of the producers before ultimately leaving the studio, where he was photographed on the street after lashing out. Later that day, he posted a now-deleted tweet that read, "I'm so over people bringing this past shit up, yet we praised Charlie Sheen and other celebs for their bullshit." Chris appeared in an interview days later and apologized for his outburst. Luckily for Chris, he found one woman who was there for him during all the chaos, Karrueche Tran. They had been private about their relationship, but were seen together a lot in early 2011 until the pair ultimately decided to make their relationship officially public. Chris then dropped his 2011 album, Fame, which stood for Forgiving All My Enemies. The album was a major success, with hit singles like Look at Me Now and Yeah x3. Chris was able to sell 270,000 copies first week and earned his first #1 album. The next year he dropped Fortune, which would be his second #1 album. Back-to-back #1s proved that Chris Brown's music was good enough to look beyond his demons. It also helped that every major artist in the industry was totally fine with working with him. But he was about to get the biggest cosign that would fundamentally restore his reputation. That would come from Rihanna. Chris appeared on the remix of Rihanna's song Birthday Cake. In return, Rihanna featured on Turn Up the Music. The records were very controversial due to their past. Rihanna said she didn't understand the controversy. She didn't see how people could think it was a bad thing. Rihanna's defense over the music made it clear that she had forgiven Chris, but she took it a step further when she went on Oprah to publicly speak on their relationship.
He made that mistake because he needed help, and like, who's gonna help him? Nobody's gonna say he needs help. Everybody's gonna say he's a monster without looking at the source. And I was more concerned about him.
That is really powerful. Have you forgiven him?
I have forgiven him.
The person who was undoubtedly the victim in the situation has forgiven the assailant. That was enough for fans to fully embrace Chris again.
You know, man, like I said, man, people make mistakes. And if Rihanna's willing to forgive Chris, then everybody else need to mind their business and forgive Chris too.
It seemed ludicrous for fans to hold this over Chris's head when Rihanna herself felt compassion for him. Chris and Karrueche ended up splitting up during this time. Chris shared his struggles with loving two women at the same time.
You know, when you share history with somebody, then you tend to fall in love with somebody else. It's kind of difficult. You know what I'm saying?
Rihanna and Chris began dating again. He made a mistake and he's paid his dues, Rihanna says. Because of her support and their rekindled relationship, his reputation to the public was fully restored, and for the next 10 years he would have a wildly successful career despite a long list of criminal charges. In January of 2013, Chris got into a verbal altercation with Frank Ocean over a parking space, calling him a homophobic slur and then punched him in the face while two of Brown's friends jumped in. Chris was captured in public wearing a hard cast on his right hand days later with no explanation for his injury, despite clearly being assaulted.
Wait, so they argued over a parking space and got into a fight over a parking space?
Frank ultimately chose to not press charges. Later on in 2013, Brown was arrested for felony assault in Washington, D.C., where he and his bodyguard, Christopher Hollisey, were involved in a physical altercation with two men outside of the W Hotel. Keep in mind, he was still on probation from the 2009 Rihanna assault. He would plead guilty to this assault in 2014. 1 month later, he was booted from a rehab facility after smashing his mother's car window during a family session. In early 2014, a judge ordered Chris Brown to stay another 2 months in a Malibu rehab, where doctors blamed the R&B singer's violent past on previously undiagnosed PTSD and bipolar disorder. They said he was responding to the treatment well. In May of 2014, Chris Brown was ordered to spend 131 days in Los Angeles County Jail by a superior court judge in California after the singer admitted to violating the terms of his probation, but he was released after 60 days. Then he released his album X, which sold 146,000 copies first week and debuted number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. In January of 2015, his probation was revoked after he left the Los Angeles County area to host a private party that led to 5 people getting shot. Him and Karrueche finally break up for good in 2015 when she found out that Chris impregnated another woman. In May of 2015, a man alleged that Chris hit him after an argument over a basketball game at the Palms Casino Resort, but Chris denied and the alleged victim didn't press charges. He dropped his 2015 album Royalty, selling 184,000 units first week and debuted number 3 on the Billboard Hot 200. In January 2016, Brown was investigated by the police in Los Angeles after a woman alleged that he beat her and stole her cell phone during a party at the Palms Casino Resort. He was not charged. In June of 2016, he...
See, now, people just trying to get over him because of what happened with Rihanna and all that.
He's sued by his ex-manager Mike G and claimed that Chris Brown brutally attacked him, punching him 4 times in the face and neck. This matter was settled out of court in 2019. In August 2016, a woman called the police and claimed that Chris threatened her with a gun outside of his home. He repeatedly proclaimed his innocence and was eventually arrested and later released from jail on a $250,000 bail. But he sued the woman for defamation and won. Through incriminating text messages, the woman told her friend, "Don't you know this freak Chris Brown is kicking me out of his house because I called his friend's jewelry fake? Can you come get me? My Uber is messing up. If not, I'm going to set him up and call the cops and say that..."
What? So, you got mad and called his friend's jewelry fake. And when Chris decided to kick you out the house, you gonna call the police and set him up to say that he tried to shoot you?
He tried to shoot me, and that will teach him a lesson. I'm going to set his ass up. Him winning this suit is huge. because it started to put into question how many times he could have been falsely accused because of his status. And because of his past, his character continued to be defaced by allegations highlighted by the media, as many of his crimes were dropped due to people not pressing charges or lack of evidence. In April of 2017, Tampa police said Brown allegedly sucker punched a 28-year-old club promoter during a paid appearance. The charges were dropped due to insignificant evidence. His ex Carucci filed a 5-year restraining order against Chris and won. Tran claimed that after the couple broke up, Brown demanded that she return diamond rings and other gifts that she had received during their relationship. When she refused, Brown reportedly texted her, "I'm not being nice to you no more. If I see you out in public again, and I'm there, I will make you hate me even more. Don't be anywhere I'm out in public. I'm going to ban you from all events." In another text, he allegedly wrote, "Bitch, I will beat the shit out of you. And I promise you I will make your life hell." In February, Tran claimed in a sworn statement that Brown had previously punched me in my stomach twice and pushed me down the stairs. In separate reports, Chris allegedly threatened to kill her. In January 2019, authorities in Paris detained Chris, his bodyguard, and a friend on potential charges of aggravated rape and drug infractions. A woman filed a complaint with the police alleging she was assaulted at his suite at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. Chris and his associates were released from custody without charge just 2 days later. Paris authorities kept the investigation open, and Chris retaliated by following a defamation lawsuit against the woman. In the summer of 2019, Chris dropped his 9th studio album, Indigo. His criminal past seemingly once again had no effect on his commercial sales, as Indigo debuted at #1 on the US Billboard 200, making it his 3rd #1 album. I stopped in 2019, but every year he seems to have a major allegation or arrest. Ultimately, Chris complaining about being tired of this narrative of him being an abuser or violent man is fully self-inflicted. Every 6 months to a year, there's a new story about him punching someone or being violent towards someone. So is this narrative really about the Rihanna incident or repeated behavior? And for him to complain seems odd, because his career has never been held up. He's never fallen off, and he's never been blackballed. 3 #1 albums, 114 songs on the Billboard Hot 100, 11 top 10 hits, and nearly 200 million records sold. Most people choose to look the other way regarding his legal issues because they love his music so much. Most people are separating the art from the artist when it comes to Chris Brown. Most people don't care about his violent history. So if you're a person who hates cancel culture, you look at Chris Brown as a success story. For everyone else, I guess you're just hoping it doesn't get worse. One thing Chris Brown is right about is people tuning in to see Blueface and Krishan beat the snot out of each other in front.
Now that situation right there, bro. People hate on Chris Brown for what he did to Rihanna. But y'all sit and watch Blueface and Krishan do the exact same thing. And y'all don't get mad about that. But anyway, that was reacting to 2 Patrick CC videos. If you guys like my reactions, go ahead and leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe down below. It's your boy SkyBreezy, and I'll see y'all next time.